Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Father Knows Something. As you can see, it is the Four Musketeers this evening.
What if they're listening?
I'm sorry?
What if they're listening?
They're listening. And Holly is with us. And since we did do the show and Gabrielle was so wonderful to sponsor socks, I am wearing the Holly socks tonight. And as you can see, we'll show you. If you look here and look there, we got Holly. And you, with the Viking thing, what are you wearing tonight?
They look really happy and nice.
I guess happier than...
Then they say, go to hell.
I think that's what Holly just told us.
Go to hell.
Yeah, Holly is out. She wants to be comfy and not squished on a couch.
She just wanted her moment, and then it's just like,
Yeah, she might be back.
done.
We don't know. And
She
Morgan,
gone.
you got socks?
I have no socks on this evening.
What happened?
I don't know where my pony ones are.
I want to thank the guys at Phonetic, especially Gabrielle, who showed up at Morgan's show, who is an avid Two Hot Takes listener and now Father Knows Something. And great products. And I think we even have a promo code if you want to put it up later.
We do. I'll put it in the show description for everyone.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So let's kick it
Yeah.
off. Let's go.
Okay, so the theme we have for you is probably going to be broken up into two parts. I read half, Justin reads half, but it's called Pros and Cons. So these were stories that we felt didn't really have a straightforward answer, but might have us kind of working through some of them, and like a pros and cons list might be helpful.
Let's give it a shot. See how we do.
Okay.
Let's go.
Morgan's up to bat. She's holding the computer, and she gave me the look.
Yeah.
I had a great time with you this week, by the way.
Yeah, we had some fun adventures.
Morgan decided to buy a sofa and a chair, and we've been out hunting fabrics for this as she's going to try to find a new domain to live in. But she's preparing herself, so she's...
Don't have a new house, but...
I've had a passion for certain furniture since my parents bought their first piece in 1958. It was mid-century. Morgan's been going wild hunting left and right for it.
Craigslist and me are like this.
And she's finding it. She's finding bargains, and she's bringing this stuff home. And obviously, we're not in the living room because our living room is now a warehouse for furniture.
It's a new storage unit.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, but it's okay.
But we did get to go to the fabric store and have a great time looking at fabrics that was reminiscent of the guy that made this stuff, his theme. And it was a lot of fun. And I had a great bonding moment with you. And I'm so glad we got to do it.
Okay, well, let's jump into this.
Okay.
So up first, we have, hi, Jerry, love your podcast. And of course, I love Two Hot Takes and the whole crew. I'd love your advice on an issue I will be facing in the future. My husband is in the military and has 6 more years left until he retires. Because of this, we move frequently and are starting to think about where we want to live when he retires. The issue is that I am torn between living in our ideal place, which is our home state of California, if my husband can find work there and we can afford it, or moving to Colorado, where my parents and siblings all relocated to after I got married and moved away from home. We have lived in Colorado where my family is living. They actually relocated to help me when we had our first baby and my husband deployed shortly after, and they ended up staying in Colorado because they liked it and the cost of living in California was getting too high for them. Out of the 5 states we have lived in, Colorado is our least favorite, mostly due to the cold. Our dream state is California, but our backup states are in the Southwest due to it having a similar climate and culture. Being away from family is difficult. I feel like we are missing out on time with them, and as parents of 3 children, we never get breaks and don't really have support. I feel like they are also missing out on time with their grandparents, uncles, and cousins. My younger brother has a family, and my parents are especially close to them. Sometimes his wife makes me feel as though it's a competition and gets envious towards me and my family when my parents do visit us or we visit them. So I do worry that moving close to them would exacerbate this. When the time comes, should we try to live in our dream state or live in a state that we don't love but will be close to family?
Well, I'm going to start by saying home is always where your heart is. And with that, I'm gonna go back into the reality of these different locations. I too am faced with a lot of this. I've moved around a little bit in my life. Morgan has lived basically in Minnesota most of her life, and she's been here, about 5 years now. And I know that as I was young and I was, moving around the country regarding my job, moved me everywhere. I ended up in Minnesota of all places for 25 years, and that is cold. Once the cold starts in the end of October, it doesn't go away until June, or certainly last weeks of May. So I know that coming to California is extremely expensive because of just property, and everybody else wants to be here, and all the other things that are associated with it, traffic. It's just not what it was when I was a kid. So I too have been looking at Colorado and other places to move, and try to think, what would be the place. And my siblings live here, and my other kids live in Minnesota. But Denver, when I even thought about Colorado, I had a client in Evergreen, and just outside of Denver. And it was so tranquil and kind of mountainous in that area. And it kind of reminded me of the old gold mining towns. And to me, I said, for retirement, this would be kind of great. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And if I need to get to a city, I can certainly get into Denver. And if you got to go to LA, it's $150 to $250 for a flight. You're back in LA. If it snows in January on the 3rd and the 4th, by the 6th or the 7th, the ground is back and the sun is up and it's 70 degrees. If you want to go skiing, it's 2.5 hours, 3 hours just to your west. You're in the best skiing in the world. Denver and the surrounding communities have a lot to offer. And the lifestyle, if you're out of Denver, seems to be really nice. I guess Denver is cosmopolitan as LA, and it's crowded and it's back into traffic. And if you're in a city, you're back in that environment. But the best thing that you said is you have a support system, and you have parents and family that are going to want to share in your kids. Real quickly, I have nieces and nephews that live out of state, and I get to see them 3 times a year. And even though we're bonded, but we don't get to really enjoy each other in that part of growing up. And then I also have sometimes nephews here and nieces I don't get to see, and they're within 15 minutes of us, but their schedules are busy. So
you see the pros and cons of this whole thing?
This is a pro and con. And we are identifying all of it. But my main answer is, as much as I love LA, and I'm an LA guy, I'm a California boy, I think that I would be willing to try something different. As long as I had the ability of, escaping when I wanted to escape. And you have that with the Rockies. And that's why a lot of people here are moving there. They're getting out of here and they're going there. And I find out that when you go to Texas or some of these other places, they're extremely hot and humid. Killer hot.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I mean, we had killer hot here, but I could imagine it been in Texas at, whatever it was with the humidity.
Or Vegas.
Man,
Las Vegas, I could never.
I would have been dead.
I would melt away there.
I don't know why anyone lives in Palm Springs.
Palm Springs too. It's only good in the winter.
It's good in the winter,
nightmare.
but I thought about that as well, saying that, you can afford to buy a place, but let me tell you, I would be dead within about, one season.
I know. It's crazy.
It's amazing. Everyone lives in the place that's best for them. It works out very well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to figure that out sometimes.
It definitely is. And so, what are your thoughts on this one?
My only perspective of moving is when I literally had nothing holding me back. So I made 2 of the best choices of my life in moving to New York and then to LA. Fortunately, though, this type of decision is a lot easier for me because I'm where I need to be, and there's only one place I can do what I do every day.
Yeah. So for this person,
and there was only you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so
she's thinking of her whole family.
I know, and that's what I mean. This will be a thing for Morgan and I. This will be a thing for us individually. figuring out where you want to be versus a little bit kind of where you should be. It's just the thing that sticks out to me in this story is, yes, your family's there, but you don't like it. And so it's hard to compare the two of, oh, I don't like this place, but my family's here. So that makes it really difficult. And it makes me almost like, if the dream, the ideal place is California, then I'd say try it and go for it, because you can always come back to Colorado, and then there's not the what if we had moved. I'm always big on the what ifs. I don't like living with the what ifs. You kind of got to clear those out of the way to be truly happy. And if you don't try the California thing, and maybe you test it and see if he can find work, if he excels, or if you guys excel together there. And then if that doesn't work, then you can try somewhere else. Go to Arizona, go like somewhere in the vicinity. There's so many options.
Yeah.
So I would say try it. Go for like what you're feeling you'd want to do over what you feel you should do, because you can always make it work. It won't be the same, but you got to get rid of the what ifs.
Yeah, I personally love Colorado. I could live there. I think what's something that's really interesting that stood out to me when we spent some time there is Colorado, and we were in Denver mostly. It felt like the perfect blend of Minnesota and California. Like me and Justin said that there. They have like a California mentality, but like a Midwest feel to it. When everyone's just nice, very forward thinking. It was just a vibe. So I love Colorado. And I think having a support system and, a village around you makes it so nice. And so
But they already don't like it.
That's what's sticking out of my head.
Yeah,
as they already don't like it. But
so what didn't they? Just the cold. I mean, global climate change. It's going to get warmer. This is also 6 years away. So there's so much that could happen within those 6 years time span, and your family might have moved out of Colorado by that point. So I think, in my head, these are all valid thoughts to keep in mind over the next couple of years.
And California could be an island.
It could be. It could be. So my thought was kind of like, just, let it play out. I don't really think you can start thinking so much about a future like this until you're like a year, maybe 6 months away from his retirement, because
that's true.
like, you don't know what the economy is going to be. You don't know what the job outlook's going to look like. There's so many what ifs at this point in time that you just gotta, as hard as it is, be a little patient, and relax.
It is a commitment. And another thing really to consider are schools for your kids.
Nothing like the Midwest education system.
I have to tell you, I have some friends that are acquaintances of mine. They had all the money in the world to live in California. They had a beautiful home. They have 3 kids, and they were putting them in private schools at $25,000 to $50,000.
Insanity.
And they said, we're moving to Connecticut, and they bought a home there.
Wow.
And they're happy, and the kids are in public school. They're being brought up with all the other kids and their peers of
right,
without being that stigma of privileged, which really does help with. I mean, some of the stigma of privilege really does hurt the kids.
I think that's a better experience out of public school anyways. You're subjected to more diversity. You're going to be a well-rounded individual. Me and Justin, public school kids over here. But
that's right.
No, I think the Midwest has a great education system and invests some money into it.
Yeah.
Minnesota, especially, public education there was incredible.
I love California. I'm not going to say I don't. It's my home. It's where I grew up. I'm trying to find every possible way how I can afford to continue through the rest of my life and be here.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's hard. It really is hard. And so I've lived in many different states. I lived in Kentucky for years. I lived in Minnesota. I've been around, and I've learned to adapt and enjoy those lifestyles where I went. And I do know that when you get there and you start making friends, you couldn't possibly imagine living without your friends because you make new ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
you've got time, but lots to consider.
Yeah, they're definitely a planner.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a tough one.
Okay, moving along.
Okay.
Hi, Jerry, Morgan, and Justin. My 22 female boyfriend, 26 female to male, has been talking about proposing, even accidentally dropping that he already has the ring. We have been together for 2 years, and I know he is my soulmate and best friend. The only problem is that we are completely not sexually compatible. I have a relatively high sex drive, and his is almost non-existent. We once had a 9-month dry spell after moving in together last year. Before moving in, he assured me that once we lived together, it would be easier. When that didn't happen, he said once he switched off medication with the side effect of low libido, it would get better. Well, it hasn't. It has currently been almost 5 weeks since we last had sex. He just started new medication and has asked me to be patient. I feel as though I have been patient for 2 years, and it is incredibly unfair for him to ask me to continue to be patient. I told him that if this is still happening when our lease ends at the end of the year, I don't want to renew, which is when he dropped the ball on me that he already had the ring. With him being transgender, he has a lot of gender dysphoria issues that make him nervous about sex, which I completely understand. I love him so much, but I don't think I can live the rest of my life like this. Ideal outcome, I want to marry him and have a decent sex life that I am happy with. Additional info, we have been in couples counseling for over a year, and that has greatly improved our communication about everything but sex. He still gets very nervous and lashes out when I bring it up. I also feel as though there is a connection you can only get through having sex, which is a big reason why I crave it so bad, is because I want that connection with him.
Yeah. If you don't have it, you're friends. And if you want to be friends that live together and you guys are best friends, and, great, but how are they going to feel if you go out and, find that other person to feel that void? And eventually it's going to keep driving more frustration within your relationship. So if it's not there, you got to identify it. Sometimes I've had relationships myself that it wasn't as strong, and you think it will develop or you'll get stronger, and if it doesn't, tough as it is, you have to really be fair to everybody.
Yeah. I feel like it's one of the core pillars of a relationship, right? And so whether it be that or another big one, love, communication, whatever you want to call them, then I think this is a very challenging issue, but a very simple issue.
Wait a minute. I have one thing to offer before you go do your thing. What happens for the people that are having a wonderful relationship and something health-wise happens and sex life goes away because of an illness or because of a medication or this and that, and you've had this beautiful life and kids and you built this lifestyle and this family, and next thing you know, sex is gone and the partner saying, I just can't do it anymore. What happens?
Well, I don't know what to address first. So from an OT perspective, a lot of times, especially if it's the woman or, the woman identifying person, if they become disabled, a male partner is more likely to leave. So a lot of times when injuries happen that leave people disabled or the status quo of their relationship changes, a lot of people don't make it. There's a subreddit called Dead Bedrooms, and you see a lot of couples that have different matching libidos, and one doesn't want any sex and one has a high sex drive and has a high libido and wants it all the time. And a lot of them end up getting divorced. And so I think, when you made a comment and you were like, sex is a big pillar, that's something I would consider a big pillar in our relationship, my life. And if it wasn't me and you, it would still be important to me. But there are some people out there that are asexual, that don't have a sex drive, or they just, I don't personally know, but that was brought up on the comment section of one of my videos when we made a comment sex, you got to test drive the car. And I had some listeners reach out and they were like, well, what about me? I'm asexual. I'm not really interested in sex. And so I think, for this write-in, for her partner, as much as you love him, if your libidos aren't matching, and as tough as it is for him because he loves you and, he's thinking about proposing, it just might not be the best match. And
you got to be aligned.
Yeah. And he might find someone that is like, has a similar libido level, like another woman that is low libido.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, it clicks. It is just like the perfect match. And so I think that's hard. That's kind of one of those things where you don't really find out until you get like deeper and more intimate in your relationships. But I think that is something where if you know what you want and you're asexual and sex doesn't matter to you, like you find someone who maybe aligns with that, or maybe they have a lower libido, but like are happy to accommodate your sex needs. I think when it comes to sexual needs, there's such a tug of war, and like it's a puzzle piece, but yet like there's a lot of give and take there. So
I think I just meant more like it's one of the core things you need to be on the same page about.
Yeah.
It's like kids, a lot of times decorating and style choices and things like that, different ambitions in life. Like there's certain big things you have to align on. Otherwise it's like, you don't want to lock this down with a ring right now because you got to get this figured out.
Yeah.
And it's not like the ring's going to solve it. Like a lot of people think sometimes.
I know. And I think, I think he kind of reacted out of fear. Like, our listeners writing in and saying, yeah, at that point, when I said I don't want to renew the lease, that's when he said he dropped the ball that he has a ring.
Right.
And so, you could put that on the con list of, was that a little manipulative? Like, was that no, like I'm going to sink my claws in? Or was that a pro and like, no, he's just being vulnerable and honest about where he's at. So this is one that you could go back and forth where it's like, your relationship is so amazing and you do want to marry him, but the sex isn't there. So this is why this one made the list.
I'm just going to take it under just the reality that resentment will eventually surface, frustration will eventually surface, cause problems, and the best thing to do is get out of the problem before it's a problem.
Yeah, I would say I would try, and I know they're in
therapy.
They're in couples counseling, but I would try to find like an actual sex therapist or someone that specializes in intimacy, is pelvic floor certified, because there could be so much more to where, like, I know they mentioned like gender dysphoria and other issues relating to like the transition for him. But I wonder if there's someone that could maybe address some other underlying issues. Is there pain? The gender dysphoria could be, the whole issue here, but are there other things like pain and, it's a complex issue that I think an actual sex therapist might be better equipped to handle than just a couples therapist.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
I just know that I've been there in relationships that there was out of balance, and it was very frustrating. And they all ended up not working eventually.
Yeah.
And, years went by. If I took the years of these relationships, I probably have 12 years total of those type of relationships in my 65 years of life. And certainly of my 40 years of dating.
Yeah.
And that's just because you were hoping things would get better and you wanted to give it a lot of time to develop.
Yeah. I was in love with these individuals. I cared deeply for them. I thought everything else was aligned and that we'd get through this, and we just didn't. And sometimes it was just it wasn't the fact that they had problems with sex. They just didn't want sex with me. And sometimes you have to look at that too, that they like something about you, but you naked next to them is not one of them.
Yeah.
And it's a hard pill to swallow.
Well,
but you got to sometimes.
Yeah. And there's like, of course, I think it was on TikTok. So like anything on TikTok, you have to take with like 20 grains of salt. You don't know how accurate it is. And I don't remember if it was coming from an actual sex therapist or just like a POV or someone, saying it. But they were talking along the lines of like, my body knew that it wasn't the right person for me before I knew. And so they used to say like, oh, I had such a high sex drive. And then, I started dating them and I wasn't really interested in sex anymore. And it was like small things. Like I didn't get as wet as I used to and talking about like that. And then they were like, oh, I broke up and I wanted to have sex with other people. I just realized I didn't want to have sex with them.
That's right.
So it's like they made the point, like my body knew before I even knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so
The subconscious.
yeah, it's just, maybe there's something to that. But I think again, sex therapy, pro con list, and just, let it kind of develop.
Yeah.
Follow your heart though. I mean, as hard as it is saying goodbye sometimes, like you in your gut, it sounds like you kind of already know.
I've had relationships, guys, that I knew in the first year it was done. It took me 3 years to finally get out of it. That's 4 years in a relationship that should have been gone after a year.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Because of all that. So think about that and consider that investment,
Time.
especially at the age you're at right now. I mean, I really do
22.
mean that.
Yeah,
Let us know. Keep us in the loop.
for sure. Okay, moving along.
Mm-hmm.
My boyfriend, 21 male, and I, 21 female, have been together for a year and a half as of now. We've had an amazing relationship, and I'm so grateful for his presence in my life. However, in the past few months, I've had an on and off gut feeling that because of our differences in religion, we won't be able to effectively build the lives that we want with each other. I'm a Christian and very involved in my faith, and he is agnostic. He and I have talked about it in a few different times, and he doesn't understand why my faith is such a big deal to me. But from my perspective, my faith is the center of my life, and my core values and dreams for my future stem directly from it. I know that at the end of the day, I can't marry someone who believes something different about the universe than I do, especially considering that we both want kids one day. I have nothing against his beliefs, and he has nothing against mine. We're just at odds about what we want a marriage and a future together to look like. Because of this, I actually ended the relationship a few days ago. We still love each other so much, but I just wish things were different. Ideal outcome? Honestly, I would never ask him to change, and he knows that. But I'm just praying that God uses me as an example and maybe gets him to change his mind about faith. But the whole reason I broke up with him is that I could never drag him along for a long-term relationship and cross my fingers and hope that one day he starts to believe. I just love him, and I hate not being able to be with him.
This is a great topic because I've lived this on every way. First, I'm Jewish. Everyone knows this. And I have dated women that were Jewish. I have dated women that were not Jewish, agnostic, and also Christian. And when I say Christian, I've been on all levels.
Sounds so weird when you say that.
Well, it's
on all levels of Christianity.
well, there's all levels of Judaism too.
Oh yeah.
So when people get to be really deep and passionate about their God and about what's going to happen to you if you're, and I'll go to the Christian faith, if you're a non-believer, that you're doomed to hell, and they're worried about if we have kids, our kids have to be raised Christian because I don't want them to go to hell. And then in the back of their head, they're wishing and hoping and praying to God that you will change and you will accept.
You'll be saved.
You'll be saved. And, all they know is, and everyone in their family is really pounding on you. And their core is what their core is.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as your core is to have that faith, I respect that. But you also have to respect what their core is at the same breath. And if you guys can respect each other's cores, but not looking to force each other to change your core, then you can make that relationship probably work. But as soon as you get into, it's got to be this, and I'm worried about the kids. Now, we grew up in a household of Lutheran on your mom's side,
Mm-hmm.
and me being Jewish. And I grew up in a very active Jewish home as a kid. When my mother died, where I went every night. I went to say prayers. I went to say Kaddish at the synagogue. And sometimes I would drag you guys just to keep me company, and not to force it down your throat, but to keep me company. And you guys sometimes would go. I mean, your brother would certainly kick and scream the whole way because he had better things to do. But I never rammed religion down your throat. And I never forced you to accept one thing or the other, because I always said you on your own will discover what works for you.
Well, and so I think I do want to steer you back a little, because I think that's why she made the tough decision to break up with him, because she recognizes how important, I mean, she says here, my core values and dreams for my future directly stem from this. So,
and that's why I said that's their core. And if they can't get aligned to relax on that core, then she did the right thing by breaking up, and she'll find someone that is of her Christian faith, and she will be able to accept, and honor Jesus and pray as she does. And feel comfortable, and so will he. And together, their life will be built around their love for Jesus, that their common denominator, and that's with them, and that works. This guy, he's not
interested.
He has a different value and a different thing. It doesn't make him wrong. It just makes it not work. If that's really where she's really at, if that's really her passion.
This is definitely another pillar. This is a pillar.
Oh, yeah.
Same as like politics would be. But I think the ideal outcome is pretty unreasonable, especially at this age. People are yes, people find faith in different different periods, different times of their lives, but pretty unrealistic to expect a change as in like the previous story. That you're just hoping for change. I think the ideal outcome's already been accomplished. I think the actual ideal outcome was accomplished when you broke up. I think this one is one of the first stories where we've actually seen someone write in with a question and actually solve it in the same write-in. And so
that is interesting.
I think they're on to healthier relationships and healthier paths, that where this is a big pillar. Besides, like, sex is one thing. With religion, it's one that'll keep coming back and over, because then you do have the kids argument. And then you start rearranging all the different parts of your lives to integrate that in. And if one of you is off base with that, this is more like troubling than the other one, where it's like, you made the right call.
Well, and I will say, we have family that got married, and she was I would say she was religious, but I would also say she dove more into faith as her kids were like kindergarten age, and her partner, does not believe in God. Very just, nope, I don't believe in that. And so they do respect each other in the sense where they can keep it separate. And like, your faith is your faith. But at the same time, I would say she's always still, will you come to this? Still kind of pushing, because it's important to her. And she is worried about his soul and him being saved and not ending up in hell. And so it has been, I would say, a point of contention for the past 30 years of their life, their marriage. It's not something that they ever really agreed to disagree on, because it's like, how can you when your faith is telling you that this person's soul could be in jeopardy? So I do agree with you. I think religion is definitely a pillar. Some people can make different political opinions work. I could not.
I've just found in my experience, my personal experience, is that when I found people that have the same core formats as me and fundamental foundations, our relationship was easier and flows, because there's enough stuff in life that are going to come up to you that throw curveballs to you. Yeah. And every time you just knowingly go into a relationship with one more, it could be a mistake. But it's tough to tell that to someone that are young and that are ambitious to the fact of their new relationship. They found this person that's just awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they'll never find another one like it. and someone says, gee, you might want to consider, and you look at them and say, fuck you. This is the best thing in the world. And they're too blind to really, when the senior experienced family member might say, you might want to pay attention to this. It depends on sometimes how that family member pitches that pitch.
Yeah.
Because the natural thing is when somebody tells, when a parent tells their kid something, I know my son, it's rebellion right off the bat. So with him, I really don't tell him what to do. I kind of throw a flavor out there, for lack of a better description.
Jedi mind trick.
Well, yeah, just so that in his own way he'll consider it and process it. And it's amazing that he does process it and he comes up to the right conclusion.
Yeah. Well, and so I think, with this one, I think I picked this because of the fact it's like she already knew. She knows the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she just wanted to be told, like, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
I think based on this and the ideal outcome, it just seems like she was looking for the reassurance that I was right to break up with him. And I would say you are. If you do a pros and cons list for this one, and your faith is number one for you, it is how you go through life. That's not something you should sacrifice
100%.
Well, if she also believes as strongly as she does, she also knows that God will bring her someone that will fit within that.
Exactly. So for this one, I think the cons list, even if she were to try to maybe get back together and our love is so strong on the pro, but the cons, I think the con list on this one it takes you down. It's just not, it's not the match.
Yep. Moving along.
Dear Jerry, Morgan, and Justin, I am so sorry this is a long one as I tend to ramble. I am sick of my job. When I was 21, I was working at Target, and after the holidays, I was laid off.
I'm sick of her job too, just so you know.
Okay, good. My mom asked me to come in and help out at her company with some samples. It's been 10 years later, and I haven't left. When I started it, it was just data entry, and I was thrilled. I mean, I was 21 and suddenly I had a salaried job without a degree, so I felt so incredibly thankful. However, over the past 10 years, I'm still grateful, but to a different degree. Because we are a small company, I am not the only child who works at the company, but I am the only girl who is a child of someone else, and it has definitely affected my job. For example, it has caused a lot of drama with some coworkers thinking I get special treatment. I don't. In fact, I get treated worse to prove that I don't get treated better. For example, when someone at my company got COVID, they were given the standard 5 days off, current CDC guidelines, until they tested negative. I, however, only got 2 days off, then had to come into the office with a mask on and sit in my office with the door closed like a leper. My job description has also vastly changed since COVID. Before COVID, I was working on marketing material for my job and becoming increasingly burnt out over it. My boss would tell other companies they could use my skills too, free of charge and no extra pay for me. However, since COVID has come around, my job is just pricing and data entry. I was getting burnt out over the marketing, but I miss the creativity. Now it's 2022 and I just turned 32. I have no degree, I hate my job, and I'm sick of feeling like this, so I looked into options. I found a course that allows you to teach English overseas. They pay you, help you with the visas, and it's not until December, so I have plenty of time to get things sorted before I go. I even checked, and they don't mind my ADHD or the fact I don't have a degree. My boyfriend and my mom think I'm nuts, but I just want a new adventure. I don't want to work in the same field I have been in, which is my only option without a degree. My mom says I'm just being impulsive because of my ADHD, but I have been thinking about this for months now. My boyfriend said it's because my grandpa passed away in April and it freaked me out, but I was looking into this before he passed. So please, am I crazy for wanting a new adventure at 32?
You are not crazy. I have a very good friend of mine, and I reflected when I get these stories, I immediately, put the puzzle together of what fits best in, for this situation. And she grew up in a family business. mother, father, everyone was in this business from the grandfather. And she finally just realized she couldn't deal with the abuse that she was receiving from her mother and had to get out of that office. And she went to work for someone else in sales. And she has been there now for 30 years. She was 30 when she left. She's now 65. And she's still there, and she loves going to work, and her life is fantastic. It worked out well for her. And she got out of that family business where it was just toxic.
Yeah.
With the ability of never really getting the respect because just the way that thing was structured. I was in a family business since I was a kid until my dad died. And he was 63. I'm now 65. So I was 30 when he passed, or 35 in that area. And it was difficult because sometimes parents have a tough time letting you grow. And they're very free with your skills to give it away to somebody else. And just think that, you're part of the team and you're going to get it and you're fine. But sometimes it's disrespectful not to at least get you to buy into wanting to do it and where you are, and also compensating you and treating you with the respect of all this stuff. It's tough in these family businesses.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're burnt
sure.
out, I get it. Totally get it. And one day you may decide you want to go back, or you may need to go back if you want to continue that business, or you fall yourself back in a different level or different position. You certainly understand the business after 10 years. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But it's not bad to go somewhere else and take your skills and go learn something different from somebody else.
Absolutely.
So that's my feeling on that one.
Oh yeah. I think family dynamics are very tricky, especially when you get into business together. And at the same time, I think it's tough to be a parent that was raised under the guise of, you're going to take this over one day, you're going to do this, and then you're the child. And then you keep, that's a pattern that tends to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere down the line, someone's got to break the chain a little bit. If they just aren't happy and don't want to do it, you might have to be that first person that breaks that chain, which is a very hard position, but still doable for your mental health and happiness. The other thing I found interesting was the comment about the boyfriend, which I think the boyfriend's coming up from a place of, I like the security and the routine we have, and you going and teaching this overseas is making me feel insecure.
Long distance is hard.
And so he's probably making those comments out of that mindset.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which I think, sure, losing your grandpa, if that scared you or that puts you in a mindset where you're like, fuck, life is short. I want to figure my shit out and I want to get out there and do something that makes me happy and fulfills me.
Yeah.
Then who cares if that's what started it? It doesn't matter what sparked that in your mind. Maybe that was the sign you needed to say, hey, I need to figure out my life because this was a great convenient option for me at this point in my life. It is no longer that, and I want to move on. So if that's what sparked it, then more power to you. Again, I hate the what ifs. Go try it.
Absolutely. I think that's where I'm at as well. I look at this and, 32, you're not old at 32. You got time to try stuff out and, sort all of that, because I had people in my grad program that were 30 when they started the program. And by the time they got done with OT school, they were 33. It's never too late to go back to school. It's never too late to do something. If you're breathing, can open your eyes, can get up, can do stuff, it's never too late. You got time. So I have a friend that actually taught English in Taiwan for 3 years, and it was the best experience of his life. He absolutely loved it. Loved it. He actually dated some bougie heiress over there while he was over there. He had
Damn.
Yeah, he had the best experience. And I used to get videos of his little kiddos in the classroom, and it was the cutest stuff. And I think it's an amazing experience. And you've been at this company for 10 years. It seems like you've soaked up everything you can from it. And also, it sounds like, you have been there for 10 years. They love you. So if you go and teach English abroad and hate it, I feel like you could probably get your job back if you needed it, but also adventure.
Yeah.
Try new things.
I looked at this thing not even thinking that she is really going to go, that's an option for her, but she could find options locally. It depends on her relationship she wants. Yes, the boyfriend might be trying to control her, but just feared of losing her for her going overseas. But the biggest thing is definitely, look, you haven't really advanced that much in the 10 years you've been there. You're still doing data entry, even though you got to marketing, they shoved you back. So there's other experiences for you to go explore, and may lead you somewhere else. You just don't know where these things can lead you. So spread your wings, fly a little bit, and check it out, because where we start typically is not where we end at the end of our working career.
Mm-hmm.
You started, to go down one path. The next thing you know is you got a podcast.
This is true.
2 podcasts that you work on. Me, I started by doing liquidation. I end up being manufacturing. Now I'm doing a podcast. I mean, it's just, you never know where you're going to roll. And so you got to keep all these things open, explore, because all these different tools go into that toolbox. You don't lose. Experience is one thing you take with you. It just goes with you. And you can apply it in different places where you least expect it.
Yeah.
And the family dynamics will probably get healthier.
Probably.
Yeah. And I'm sure her mom is just looking out and wants what's best for her.
For sure.
Her mom doesn't own the company by the sounds of it. It seems like the mom was the in, and there are other family people there. So it doesn't seem like she was being groomed to take over and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I will just say, I think a lot of people nowadays, because of the way that like college was kind of pushed upon us, I think a lot of people think like, oh, I need this college degree to like get this job and do this. And honestly, you don't. I know so many people out here in LA that have very good, high paying jobs and don't have college degrees. So I think that like is also changing. Like,
I think LA is a little more accepting than most places, but it definitely is like the wave is coming.
Yeah.
The wave is definitely coming.
It's definitely coming. And also like you could easily take some community college classes on the side if you wanted to like just pad your resume a little bit. Like,
yep.
Community colleges are very affordable. A lot of them have business schools. If you're still interested in business and marketing, like just adding a couple classes to even be able to put that on your resume is
you never
great.
know until you apply too. Because if you go to your first sit down, I've heard of people going to that first sit down, they don't have any of the qualifications, not even degree, and they're just so good
that they get it.
They loved them that they're hired. So you just got to try.
Exactly.
The one thing that you have that is amazing is you have 10 years of working experience, which means 10 years working with people.
True.
Mm-hmm.
That is extremely valuable. You're 10 years of processing.
At one company too. That's incredible.
I have a friend that's in Denver. If you're in Denver, Colorado, pipe up because I got someone looking for someone like you.
Yeah, I think all very exciting things. And if you've been thinking about this since, we're in September now. Her grandpa passed away in April, but she's been thinking about it since before he passed. So that's 6 months of thinking about it. And if you're still interested in thinking about it, there's a good chance you really want it. So
True.
You can always come home. Coming home is easy. Go for it. I say go for it. The pros are outweighing the cons for me on this one.
Absolutely.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we have next?
Last one here. Hey, Jerry, I absolutely love this podcast and 2 hot takes. You remind me so much of my dad and you always make me laugh. I will be talking with my dad about this, but I'd love a more objective point of view.
Okay.
My fiance, 28 male, and I, 29 female, are starting to plan our wedding. After much back and forth between a traditional wedding and eloping, we decided we want a wedding with close friends and family. I'm talking 75 people max. No extended family, really just people who have been the most fundamental to us as individuals and as a couple. Here's the problem I'm having, and I don't know how to talk to my fiance about it. We don't really want kids at our wedding. However, we are very close to my niece, 10 female, and nephew, 7 male. We see them often and are a big part of their lives. They call him uncle already and always run past me to give him hugs. I would love for them to be involved in the wedding in some way. I think it'd be reasonable to make an exception for 2 kids to be there. The issue is, my fiance is one of 5 kids. and has 14 nieces and nephews between the ages of a few months and 15 years old. We are not close with them. Most of them I've met maybe once or twice, and some I've never met at all. Some of them have no idea who I am. He is not as close with them due to his family living further than mine, but feels that if my 2 are allowed, then his 14 should be allowed. I don't really want 16 kids at the wedding. Is this an all or nothing situation? Can mine be there but not his? It breaks my heart to think that our niece and nephew that we're so close with won't be a part of our day, but 16 kids total is a lot when there won't even be that many people to begin with. Any ideas on what to do and how to talk to him about this? Am I being totally unreasonable here? Thanks so much for any insight you have.
To me, it sounds like, when I had my niece and nephews, they were like my kids. Jonathan and Melissa, they were there daily. I would help pick them up. They lost their father, it just was a different dynamic of our closeness. So it sounds like the two of you have your niece and nephew that are almost like your kids. And if you can have that discussion with him in a way that this is, the kind of way, do you feel the same way I feel kind of conversation, rather than saying, my nieces and not yours, say, do you have the same feeling with these kids that they're like our kids, in a weird way, that we'd want them there? And you keep using the word we. And then he can say, it's just not appropriate or this because of that rule. I definitely think you have to have the easy discussion, not a hard discussion, easy discussion with him on how he sees it. And you got to consider one more thing. It might be boring for kids at a wedding with nothing but adults. So sometimes they need more interaction to stimulate them where they're not bored with other kids to play with.
Yeah.
I think the flip of that, though, is the 2 that they're closest with probably will be more engaged because they're like, oh, these are my people, versus the other 14 that are kind of like, yeah, older people are getting married, kind of know them, don't really know, but so we're going to be super bored. It kind of goes both ways, right?
When I just went to, Carla's wedding, and we had, basically his daughter, and we had 3 of their friends' kids, and they were able to keep each other amused, the 4 of them, and they did. But they were really in a room full of adults and about 75 people, total, maybe 50, but somewhere in that. It was a smaller, more intimate, group, and it worked. But when you're going to, when you have 2 kids, they're bored. They're at their parents saying, entertain us, entertain us, entertain us. And that's not really where you are at that point in time.
Yeah.
So it's tougher. So as much as you may want them for the wedding portion, but maybe you have to let them go somewhere else to go play afterwards, have an out for them so they're there for the wedding. But they really may not want to be at the party for anything longer than about 15 or 20 minutes. They'll be time bombed out. They want an escape. So if you provide an escape for them, you've solved your problem. They're at the wedding. They're able to be the ring bearer, whatever you want to do at the wedding. And then you gave them the ejection seat that they're able to blast out of there, because they may be simply bored at the party.
Yeah. I'm a little torn on this one, I would say. I think it could come across very much so, especially to his family. Like, of course, the bride got what she wanted, and, she got her family there, but none of our kiddos could come, even though some of our kiddos are older and more mature than these 2. So I think it could be construed negatively. I think for me, like, we've kind of talked about like not having babies at a wedding. Like, I definitely don't want infants that could cry and disrupt the ceremony and things like that. So I think you could do like an age limit where it's like, okay, like 10 and up. And, the 7-year-old is the one exception. But
yeah,
I do think there's like a perfect solution here where it's like, we really want this to be a mature, fun celebration. For that reason, children 10 and up are invited. However, they will be asked to leave at 8 p.m. So whatever. Like, there's such a way to tailor this to have it the way you want it. But I do think, despite and it is a little bit different where they are very close with these two. But again, it's kind of like, well, you haven't had the opportunity. And like, you're then missing an opportunity where you could have a fun time with these other kiddos. And then you're giving the other two kiddos friends to play with. So this is not very straightforward. And it's going to be a lot of conversation between, the two of them to figure out what they want. But you don't want it to feel unfair, where if he wants his niece or nephew that's 15 and 12 there, they should be able to be invited.
Did I understand that he was already agreed that no kids is fine?
I don't.
Kind of initially, I think
initially I heard no kids was fine.
So we don't really want kids at our wedding. However, we are very close to my niece and nephew. We see them often. They always call him uncle. I would love for them to be involved in the wedding in some way, but I don't think he's on board yet for that.
Well, that's the discussion to see if it's important for him to have them and then have an escape clause that these kids could parachute to the amusement park or somewhere.
Well, I've seen a lot of people have, like, they hire a babysitter. So they get like a hotel room. Sometimes, weddings are at resorts.
Down to the pool.
And they'll get a hotel room and have a babysitter have all of those kids in the hotel room. It's easy to watch them. All the kiddos are in one place. And then after the wedding, parents go up one by one and pick up their kids and leave. Like, I've seen things like that work.
Well, I'm more inclined to say for the two. I understand they can invite as many as they want. They can have all these different options. But I think just to have the two for to do the ceremony and then have an out for them to go have a good time and be entertained somewhere if they wish to be, because they're going to want to be. They're going to want to go to the pool. They're going to want to do something different.
I don't know. Some kids like to just sit on the dance floor all night and tug on the bride and groom.
Well,
I've seen it.
Good. I'll make sure we have some there for you.
No, thank you. I will say though, do you think, like, what if he doesn't want to just compromise with the fact that you can have yours there, but why can't I have my kiddos, my nieces and nephews there?
Because I think I for some reason I already feel that they're not important to him. He already ousted the kids, period. But what about the exception then of these two?
Then
that's why she just has to say, do you see them like our kids, that we can do this and we can have them as this? And if he says, no, I don't see that, then she's going to have to then go try her other options or just accept it.
Okay.
Because I understand not wanting to have the zoo. I get it.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. That's all I got for you.
That's it?
That's it.
Oh, God.
Moving on to part 2 with Justin reading.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Are you guys going to trade places in the whole thing?
Yeah, we're going to trade places, but we have a Patreon, so I'm going to read that first, and then we'll trade places. So first, we're going to Patreon.
Okay. So we're ending this show.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's the end of the episode.
Sign us off, buddy.
Well, that's our episode for this week. And if you're having a wedding, think about it as far as if kids are coming. And we're going to have Patreon next, so chime on in and subscribe.
See you over.
Yeah, see you. Yeah. We'll see you at Patreon. Bye for the week. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.